Good morning, traders. Jonathan van Clute here with Stock Navigators, reminding you, as I always do, to please subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and toss some feedback down below. Let me know what you think of these videos, if they are useful, helpful to you, and if you'd like me to analyze anything in particular going forward. All right, it is Wednesday, April 3rd, hump day. Let's take a look at what's going on in the markets. And there's some interesting things brewing for sure. So yesterday, we had kind of a nothing day. You can see it well on the 60-minute chart. Just kind of a sideways day. I mean, there was some stuff intraday. I caught a few good trades on a few of these moves. But, you know, it wasn't a big trending move day. Then after the regular session closed, we have this huge push up and then some follow through to the upside. And that's where we're at right now. We're pushing up on those highs right there. So very strong, very, very bullish. But, and isn't there always a but? What I would be very, very cautious of is this. And of course, if you've been watching this channel for any length of time, if you've tuned into my videos before, you know this is what I look for, divergences. And this is a major, huge divergence shaping up because it just keeps going and going and going and going. And price just keeps marching higher and higher and higher and higher. So where are we going from here? It's, of course, impossible to say with absolute certainty exactly where and exactly when we're going to go. But it is looking like the bulls really want to try to test the sell zone here up from the historic all-time highs. And maybe they get there. It could happen. Certainly anybody who was buying in and around this area here and hasn't sold already, if they didn't get suckered into selling down here, if they're still hanging on here, they are desperately clinging to break even. They would love to get back up even close to this area and just get out and get their money back and not have a loss. So there is a decent chance that they're going to try to push the price up that high. On the 60-minute, we also have a divergence. It did work itself off a bit here with this big push up. You can see that the momentum increased significantly, but it's still a lot lower than back here. So we are still in a divergent situation with the oscillator. That being said, MACD line is also just hugging the signal line right now on the 60-minute. On the daily, it has, in fact, crossed above a few days ago. And you know, is hanging up there, is holding above. So the bulls are clearly in charge. We've got, you know, the oscillator is very clearly above the signal line on the awesome MACD. And, you know, the trend is up. It's always that, you know, don't fight the trend situation. You know, ironically, I don't know if ironically is really the right word, but I've been mostly playing counter trend because I've been looking for this to give up at any moment. So I've been taking advantage of any time, you know, the market gives up and turns around. I've been going that way, which means technically I am going counter trend, which I'm probably better off not doing. But I'm in anticipation of this market running out of steam somewhere. Somewhere up here is my hunch. We'll have to see. I don't know if it'll actually have enough momentum to punch all the way into the sell zone. With this constantly declining oscillator, I feel like it's running out of steam. I don't feel like it's got the momentum to get up that high, but we'll have to see. The market can surprise us. So just trade really cautiously. If you're trading to the long side here, be really careful because at any moment it could just give up. If you see something like this, you see a doji form right up near the sell zone here, something like that, then be really, really careful about what comes next. And if you see some follow through, engulfing, or something like that to the downside, if you see that happen here, then get ready. The correction is finally here, and then I will adjust my fib extension, which clearly is incorrect here. But at the moment anyway, it's looking like it wants to push up. So just trade cautiously, be careful here. And, you know, of course, if somehow there is enough momentum to actually get up here and break the all-time high and keep on running, well, then that's the direction we're going to go with, just how it is. So be ready to trade whatever the market gives you, whichever way that might be. All right, let's take a peek at crude oil, and crude has really just broken higher. So just as I was talking about the other day, this 21 EMA has been a great opportunity to buy the dip. Every time it dipped down around the 21 EMA, that was a good chance, good timing to get in. So this is continuing to hold that pattern. No question about it. We are higher highs and higher lows. So the uptrend is just continuing as it has been. So how far is it going to go? Don't know, but ride it as long as it's doing what it's doing. Now, that being said, of course, I'm going to point out my favorite thing in the world, divergences. We do have a declining oscillator here while price is making new highs. So just, be careful. Doesn't necessarily mean a reversal is absolutely coming. I mean, you could have said the same thing, during this. Here we had a declining oscillator and we had price making new highs. However, that was not a very much higher high from here to there. It's not a big leap, whereas from here to here is a much more significant price difference between price and the oscillator of the awesome MACD. So just tread carefully on the shorter time frames, because a pullback would be in order. And this is the way markets have to move: higher highs and then higher lows. So watch for those dips. On the shorter term, we've got one of them actually happening right now. We're right at that 21 EMA, which again has recently been a good buying opportunity. Anytime price got down around that level, it was a good place to get in. So, we may have a buying opportunity shaping up here, but just keep in mind that we are on a declining oscillator. The MACD line has already crossed below the signal line on the 60. The daily, it's still up though. So there is still some strength in the daily, still some momentum coming in. We'll have to see what it wants to do right now, today, in today's session anyway. It's pretty undecided yet, but it's still very early in the day. So we'll just have to see how this wants to play itself out. You can plot your trend line here if you like. Something like, yay, maybe. And right now, if it comes back up to this trend line and then it fails as resistance and comes back down again, then we have a pretty good sign that perhaps the pullback is happening and is already in effect, in which case wait for it to bottom out. And, that might be a test of this zone here or something like that. And then you've got an opportunity to get yourself back in and see where this pulls back down to as well, because a pullback to the 21 EMA on the daily is, of course, going to be below the 60-minute 21 EMA. So just use that opportunity as a buying opportunity, as long as the longer-term uptrend is still intact. All right, let's take a peek at gold. Gold has been just basically sideways, not really doing much. You could see relatively, boring range, I guess. But there's some indecision here. There's a lot of wicks going on. Definitely a battle going on to see who's going to take control of this market. Is this market going to continue and break down further? Based on my previously discussed flag pattern here, that's what I would be expecting. I'm still expecting an extension around that 100% target, something like that. But so far, anyway, we haven't been given it. Also, we have a potentially bullish divergence going on. We've got price making almost the same low. This isn't a perfect divergence, but it's pretty close. We have price making almost the same low, but the oscillator on the awesome MACD is a fair amount higher low. So that is a potentially bullish divergence going on right there. Additionally, we have it's even more clear here on the 60. We have definitely price making a lower low, but look at that oscillator difference. Huge, huge difference in the oscillator. In fact, it does go all the way back to here, because we had that level, then that level, then that level. And all three of those, the oscillator is just getting higher and higher and higher. And now the oscillator on the 60 has, in fact, jumped over the zero line. So we have crossed the line to bullish territory, and we just have this little slight run up here, but nothing really major. So have to see what's going on, what happens here. If this can hold, and perhaps this oscillator histogram can turn around, start marching higher, then we might have a push to the upside, which would, of course, nullify my flag analysis here, and would say that we're not going to probably get our continuation down to that 100% extension. But don't get caught in a bull trap either. Maybe price comes up, tests this zone, and then heads back down again. We'll have to see, but just be really cautious about which direction you're going to trade right now. It could really go either way, and that's, you can see that very clearly in the candle. So these big wicks to both sides lately. Of course, these are relatively small range candles, though. In general, I mean, we have bigger range candles like this one here, and this one here, and so forth. So this market can definitely move. It can have some bigger range candles in it, but right now, fairly small, fairly quiet range. Not a ton of volatility going on in here. So just be cautious, trade carefully, and watch for confirmation of higher highs and higher lows, or lower lows and lower highs continuing either way. Right now, the trend is a little bit unclear on the 60. It's up, but it was just down, so it's basically sideways. And on the daily chart, it is still technically down. So if we can just get some follow through to the downside, break this low, then the continuation is in force, and we can just look to follow it down. All right, let's now take a peek at natural gas. And natural gas is just continuing to just sort of drift down. Nothing terribly exciting. It's very, very quiet market right now, which to me just says it's building for something. There's something brewing here. We'll have to see what that's going to be. Perhaps it comes back down and retest this area here, something like that, on a much higher oscillator, in which case we've got a beautiful bullish divergence, and we can really build up a head of steam there to go much higher. And if you're doing your wave counts, if we're talking about this being a 0, a 1, and then maybe a pullback 2, then that would suggest that the 3, once this level is broken, is going to be nice and strong. So be prepared for that if it starts to unfold, and you can jump in and grab a chunk of that wave 3. Right now on the 60, it has hopped over this trend line here and is continuing sort of to go sideways to down, but there's no real clear change of direction. So right now, anyway, the trend is still down, and the bears are in control. The oscillator's below the 0 line. The oscillator's below the 0 line here as well. So everything still shows that the bears are in control. But it's just such a low momentum market right now. That could change at any moment. So just be cautious. If you are building a long position, perhaps you're going to swing trade natural gas, something like that. If you're building a longer term position, then just be wary of that low getting taken out. If that is taken out and holds, then we'd be looking at follow through to the downside, in which case it might be wanting to go down and test one of these 2 buy zones down below. So just be careful. If your position goes too far against you, be prepared to either add to the position in order to average your price if you're confident in your analysis to the upside, or get out, have a stop set, and don't let any one trade or any one position blow you out of the game. All right, last but certainly not least, let's take a look at Bitcoin, which has had something very interesting and frankly highly unexpected happening here. As a crypto bull myself, I am pleased to see this, but what the heck happened yesterday? Crazy upside action in Bitcoin. We have not seen anything like that. Well, I mean, in a long time. I'm looking back, and I don't even really see any green candles as far back as this data goes that are that strong. I mean, right in here would be probably the closest. But yeah, crazy huge day yesterday. From what I'm reading, it sounds like this was a coordinated buy from a number of different exchanges in the U.S., all simultaneously, all buying, I believe it was approximately 7,000 Bitcoin per exchange in an hour. So as is always the case with these spikes, when they come, boy, do they come fast and furious. On the 60-minute, you can see it broken into kind of 2 chunks, so it overlapped. And huge move and follow through, right? But we did not set a new high on the follow through, and look at the oscillator. Look at the divergence there. So on a 60-minute, I'm not feeling this. I'm not feeling like this is going to have a lot more follow through from here. I think a retracement is necessary and in order here to come back down, test something as support. You know, maybe it's this guy here. I don't know, but something needs to get tested as support, and then it can launch higher. Because fortunately, on the daily basis, we have in fact gotten higher than the previous oscillator high by just a little bit. So there's some momentum here. There's definitely some momentum behind this, and it could easily pull back down, test its support, and then march higher. So if in fact this was the bottom after all. And this whole area has been accumulation, which it has felt like this is accumulation to me all this time. But, you know, you never really know until you know. And at the moment, anyway, it's looking like now we know. I don't believe that this was a mistake. This wasn't an out-of-control bot that went crazy. This isn't a flash melt-up or anything like that. Because this was a coordinated purchase across a number of different exchanges. And somebody is going in big on Bitcoin. Of course, all the other cryptos have followed this because they're all priced in Bitcoin anyway. So the rising tide raises all ships, and that's what we're seeing here. So your alts are up, Ethereum, Litecoin, everybody is benefiting from this. So it's a good day in crypto land, and now we just need to see how much staying power this has. The next major target, we have a minor area here to get over, but then the next major one is going to be up here around the 6,500 mark or thereabouts. So can we get up there? We'll have to see. And then, of course, the real biggies are going to be here. Well, this whole zone, really, the 7,000 to 7,500-ish range, 7,400 around there. And then, you know, the sort of granddaddy of them all right now is going to be up here around that 8,500 mark. If it can get above that, then, oh boy, there's a lot of upside to be had from there. So there's a long ways between where we are now and there. But just very interesting to see that happen yesterday. Yesterday was a huge day for Bitcoin. So if you're holding Bitcoin, you are undoubtedly a little pleased about this. But I wonder how many people are left that are holding and have been sitting through all this and just desperate for any little pop to get rid of what they have left. So we'll probably see some selling come in at various levels, and as those last people get rid of whatever they can and get as much of their money back as they can. But once all those sellers are washed out of the market, there's nothing to stop it from just going astronomically higher again. So we'll have to see, but Bitcoin and crypto looking very, very attractive right now. Very interesting to see what is going to happen. All right, back to the S&P 500. Nothing terribly exciting has happened in the last 15 minutes, so we'll just have to wait for the opening bell, which will be in 27 minutes. So we'll have to see what the market wants to give us today. And you know, make sure you draw your trend lines and draw your zones and all that good stuff. And just be wary of these divergences, because they can really mess with you if you're trading to the long side. So just be careful. I'm going to go get ready for the premium chat room, which will be kicking off in about 10 to 15 minutes or so. And those of you who are going to be there, I will see you there. For everybody else, let me once again remind you to please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. A big hello to the recent new subscribers. Great to see you here. And please do leave me feedback. Love to get any kind of feedback, commentary, questions, symbols, anything like that. It's all good stuff. All right, that is it for me, Jonathan Van Clute with Stock Navigators, wishing you a great day of trading. Take care.